Alright, my friends, so today I'm here with Miss Amanda Reay. So we're going to be chatting about all things holistic health, talking about some mindset, talking about consumption, and wherever the conversation flows. So Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rob.
And we're having some delicious drinks made by Amanda here, so I'd love to just start off and, introduce yourself to the people and what got you involved in the health journey.
Okay, so my name is Amanda Reay. I first became interested in health when I was having some health issues and went to a doctor, and they prescribed me with something that didn't actually help. Basically, what happened was at this point in my life, I was doing a lot of things where I was just kind of numbing this emotional pain that I was feeling, and it began to manifest like physically, and I had to physically see the problem for me to actually greet the problem and start to fix the problem. And at the point that I was at then, I was taking some Xanax, and I ended up getting scabies somehow on my skin. So I went to a doctor, and they told me that it was eczema. They gave me a cream. It didn't go away. So I looked up natural ways to treat what the scabies were, because I found out what they were from doing research. And I used diatomaceous earth and tea tree oil and neem oil, and it went away in a few days.
Wow.
After that, I just became really obsessed with like natural remedies and stuff. So I started looking more deeper into them, and yeah, just kind of going from there. I didn't really fully commit to the path of health. I guess I kind of always was on the path of health, but I never fully committed until like this past February, where I was like more aware of what I was consuming. Before February, I was still having like pizza, and I was still having a lot of alcohol, and just not fully being aware of my consumption. And since I became more aware of my consumption and I've left behind those certain things, I've felt a lot better mentally and physically.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it's something that I feel that, we kind of go through these different phases of our, I don't know if awakening is the right word for it, but, the process of becoming aware of all these little things. Like, we can start drinking better water, we start noticing one thing, and then we notice when we start drinking more water, we want to drink less alcohol, and then it becomes this ever-evolving journey of, adding something or moving something. It's kind of just this nice flow that I really enjoy the process of. It's kind of like a big puzzle. So I kind of look at my health as a big puzzle, and it's like, oh, that piece doesn't really fit there, so now I'm going to take that away and put a different one there. And so, one thing we were talking about before we started this was you mentioned the consumption of everything, whether that's, media, news, foods, liquids. So I'd love to have you share what's been on your mind as it relates to the consumption of life.
Consumption of life. Well, overall, I think like the most thing that we should consume of is our own life force energy, kind of sitting in that and really tapping into our physical and emotional bodies. And before anything else that we do in the day, checking first in with ourselves and seeing how we feel. Before we go on our phone or anything like that, before we take in what others are doing, really think about how we feel and what we need for our day to go smoothly, to have, the best day ever, every single day. And to kind of like, get up and do what we need to do before we plug into our phone, before we, go and consume something right away. Just kind of sit in that energy and just see how that feels, because every day it's changing.
Definitely. Yeah, I want to dive in there, and one thing I've noticed is that when I jump to my phone first thing, wake up, check the phone, immediately cortisol spikes. You're getting rushed with that. Not only are you getting all this information, but you also got that narrow focus on a light going into your eyeballs that's not a natural light, and you're having non-native electromagnetic frequencies stimulating your body. So really, I found that in a matter of the first 5 minutes can completely set the course for my entire day. So what I've been doing lately is basically waking up, going to the bathroom, brushing teeth, drinking some water, and then going for a walk. And what I tell myself now is I cannot check my phone until I get back from my walk. So there's no excuses. There's nothing. I cannot check my phone until I get back from my walk. And that's been a challenge because sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I really want to check what's going on. I want to see this and that. But it's like, I've made the commitment to myself for the past few months that I do not check my phone until after my walk. And it's completely changed the trajectory of my day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're plugging into the 5D kind of perspective. Like, you're going out and getting in nature and taking in the natural light and, you know, looking at the trees and just appreciating being with nature as you walk through, and then going on your phone after that definitely helps to keep the flow more flowy.
Totally. So what are some practices that you utilize in the morning to get yourself rocking and rolling for the day?
When I first get up, I usually like lay in bed for a few minutes and just breathe consciously and just check in with my body and see how I'm feeling. And then I'll get up and I will scrape my tongue, brush my teeth. I've been using this essential oil from Living Libations. It's like specifically for your teeth, and it's got a lot of different herbs that it uses. Myrrh is one of them. Apparently that's really good for teeth and healing cavities and stuff, because we can restore and regenerate. Like, we don't have to pull teeth unless it's like to that point where, you know, it's affecting the nerves, and it doesn't have to get to that point. If we see it, we can kind of, it's almost like preventative health care in a way. Like, just really when we're present with ourselves, we're able to address what's going on, notice what's going on, and prevent things from going further than they need to.
So do you brush with the essential oils? Is that how you do it? Or do you switch it around?
I brush with it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll brush with it. You could use some on your finger though, and like kind of, you know, put it in there.
Yeah,
You could switch
my
with
teeth
it.
are gonna look yellow in some areas.
It will help to restore the enamel as well.
That'd be great. Check that out.
Yeah, and what else? So then after that, I'll do some sort of movement. Every day it's kind of different, but I am intending to get into more of like a steady sadhana, like every morning practice, waking up with the sun. It's been a little difficult lately just because my routine has been a little out of balance since we've been doing the fasting. I've been on a 30-day, kind of aiming for 30 days of like a mucoid plaque protocol cleanse.
And what is that to anyone who's not familiar?
So that is basically using alkalizing fruits and nourishing green vegetables like celery, dandelion greens. You can use Swiss chard as well. It's really high in potassium. And making juices with those basically. And from you not consuming anything at all and putting in the liquid, it's helping to dissolve the mucus in your body and break it up so that you can evacuate like old fermented, just stuck old fecal matter that sits in the little pockets of your intestines. And that just happens through, like, when we were younger, say like we overate and we ate a bunch of foods that didn't mix well together. Some of that food would then ferment and then it would cause mucus, so it would get stuck in those little pockets. And when you're not consuming anything for a long time and you're giving your body a break, you could even take like enzymes to break that down. That would help really a lot. And probiotics as well, since you are focusing on cleansing, you want to make sure the gut microbiome is doing well. And yeah, so that's pretty much how that's done. And some people take clay and husk, they're binding agents, and they basically pull out the plaque a little easier, but you would wait like 10 to 14 days until you were to do that. But the clay and the husk can be kind of dehydrating, so it's almost better to go the longer route with it, even though it might not be as long. You can take enzymes and then just go on a liquid diet for like 30 days and just give your digestive system a break to get out anything that, you know, may be stuck in there and, you know, could potentially cause things in the future. I feel like a good 30-day cleanse, like a couple times a year, maybe once or twice a year, is really good for preventative healthcare, holistic healthcare.
Definitely. Yeah, one thing that I really found too is, you know, doing research into people that, you know, live the longest are typically people that consume the least amount of calories. Their digestive system is doing the least amount of work because, you know, once we stop being able to absorb things, everything else kind of goes downhill. So that being said, it's not always about just not eating, it's about doing it in a way that you're still getting nutrition. Because it's more about the nutrition than the calories for most of us. Most of us overeat calories and underconsume nutrition, where we kind of want to flip that.
Yeah.
So that's why I really like, using intermittent fasting. I usually, after dinner, 7 o'clock, I stop eating. I won't eat again till usually 10 a.m. at the earliest. In the winter, I tend to eat a little bit earlier, just, I need a little bit more of that heat. But yeah, using things like probiotics, enzymes, like you said, those are ways to really bolster that digestive system, so we're making the most out of it and not putting too much pressure on the digestive tract. You have to break everything down and pull all these toxins, break down the food that we're still eating while getting rid of the toxins, and trying to it's constantly in overdrive. And especially in a day and age where we're more and more eating, got to give it a break sometimes. And I think that's, like you said, important to do at least a few times a year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the intermittent fasting helps a lot with that too. Even just giving yourself 10, 12, even if you want to go a little further, you can do a 17-hour fast. You can do some of that dry. Just allow your body to release the toxins it needs to before you keep putting something else in. Because when we're constantly consuming, when we're still digesting, whether that's mentally or physically digesting information, say you go on your phone for an hour, you wait 15 minutes, you go back on your phone for an hour, you're taking in all this information that your mind, body, needs to digest. Same thing with food as well. And it can create this confusion, this separation from ourselves, this muckiness, this feeling that we don't have clarity, we're seeing so much of what other people are doing, we're taking so much into our body. We need time to just not consume anything at all and just be in the energy that we are, to really feel how certain things we are consuming are affecting us. Because when we're constantly putting stuff in, we're getting numb.
Yes, 100% agree. And that's what I found with the walks in the morning have been really good, because it allows me to center my thoughts and set intention for the day before letting the information from my phone telling me what I need to worry about today. So I've really found it's important, like you said, to just give that space mentally. Because if you don't give the space, those probably aren't your thoughts. They're probably other people's thoughts coming into your brain. Then now we're utilizing their thoughts and their ideas, which may not be congruent with what we want to do. So I think it's incredibly important. That's where things like meditation can be great. Things like, breathing, walking, things that get you very centered and present. And like you said, getting all these different inputs from nature. Not mental inputs, but really the whole system inputs that's grounding and connecting and equalizing. So, what are some practices that you utilize in terms of gaining some of that mental space? Like, I know you're a meditator, you enjoy meditation and things like that, but what are some other things that you do to not bog down the mental side of things?
Honestly, going outside and grounding on the earth and just taking off my socks or my shoes if I have shoes on. Usually I'm not outside without shoes on or socks on unless I take them off. I don't know. I guess it depends how it goes. But I like to go outside barefoot, go for walks barefoot, and just honestly even spend time just laying out on the grass or even on the deck in the sun and just taking in the natural light, being aware of my breath, just allowing even the thoughts that come up to just dissolve and observe the thoughts that come up, not judge them, not be like, oh, I'm trying to meditate but I can't because I'm having these thoughts. Like, we don't have to judge ourselves for that. It's normal for all that information to be coming up, as it needs to come to the surface to release. Even with physical things that we see when we have these sicknesses, like people have like mucus that comes up, they take a mucus suppressant, like you're just pushing the problem down. The problem is still there and it's going to manifest another way, which is why
probably worse.
Yeah, probably worse. So I feel like just giving ourselves that space to, release what we need to through meditation is really important, and to just overall not judge ourselves at all, to really just be in that observer role with ourselves and then projecting that at everyone else around us. Because with the space that we give when we're in the observer role, that's where we're allowed to grow and love ourselves more, rather than judging and being so penetrative,
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's really important to, ground ourselves, like you said, and also share that grounded energy with other people. Because we can go into the same room with the same people, but with two different energies, we're going to impact every single person in that room very differently. So that's why I feel like it's also a personal responsibility. Like, I have the responsibility to be the best version of myself when I come here. I could have come here and be like, oh shit, I have to do all these things, I'm stressing out, I didn't get to do yada yada yada. Coming in here with a stress energy, which then would impact you, being like, he's all stressed, like what's going on here? And then, or grounding myself first, took a few deep breaths in my car. I was like, look, I got a lot of things to do today, but I'm here now. I'm going to be present for this, and I'm not going to worry about the other stuff, because when the other stuff comes, then I'll deal with it then. But sometimes just taking the responsibility of our own mental state, physical state, energetic state, I don't think a lot of people take responsibility for that, and I think it's a very important piece that as a collective we need to come to terms with, that we can be blaming other people all day long, but it really comes down to taking personal responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
Be the change we want to see.
100%. Oh my gosh. And that's the thing. Nothing outside of ourselves. We're not a victim to anything that's ever happened to us in our lives, even our childhood. Even if someone has been, hurt by someone else physically, mentally, that person did manifest it. And that's just the reality of the situation. We manifest everything that happens to us in our lives, and it's not even our own fault. It's a result of our conditioning, and it's not even the fault of who conditioned us, because it's a result of their conditioning as well. And this is just how consciousness evolves. We're now in this, coming generations, we're becoming more conscious that consciousness is expanding, and people are taking more responsibility for their energy and seeing how we did collectively create this. Like, we all share a collective consciousness that affects, the reality that we all experience, and and we're not a victim to that. We can create our own reality regardless of what's happening outside of us. We can only control how we respond to that and how we react to it.
Well, I think that what's happening in the world right now is a perfect example of that. Is that the way I perceive what's happening in the world, there's a lot of people who are looking for control, especially in the governmental system right now, who are looking to suppress one major chunk of the population for their own gain. And while I think that's wrong, I also can't blame them, because as you said, that is kind of the human condition, that we tend to try new things and push the boundaries, and it's only when we get too far that we recognize, all right, we went too far, we got to back it up. So for better or for worse, I think that a lot of people in this world are pushing the boundaries too far of what I believe to be immoral or unjust, and how they're treating people in this current situation since March. So, but again, part of me has compassion for those people, because like you said, that's been their conditioning, that's been their upbringing. So
that's what they're accepting into their lives.
Right.
And we can choose healthy boundaries. What do we want to accept into our lives? We choose what we're worth. We have to remember that we are worthy of living in abundance.
Right.
And it takes a lot to be able to really embody that knowing at all times, because those thoughts of conditioning will come up, where it's like, I don't want to spend this money on this $500 trampoline that I'm going to use every day, because I'm scared of making that investment, because I'm not working right now, because I don't want to be wearing a mask, and I don't want to be out and about in this reality that is everything's going on. Like, I can choose to be here now, be with myself, and just go through the processes I have to go through to keep gaining clarity on my purpose and mission, and not go and do something that doesn't align with my purpose and mission. Because when we feel that resistance, when we feel the anxiety, we can tell the difference between the excitement and the anxiety of doing something. The anxiety that I feel when I think about going and working at a grocery store is not the same as the excitement I feel about doing a podcast with you or doing something with someone else. Like, there doesn't always have to be something to get out of it, like in money form.
Right.
It's abundance comes in all forms, and overall, like, the abundance is the connection that we all share with ourselves and with one another. And the more that we just strengthen and really rekindle and just love ourselves, the more that we see that reflect in like all of our relationships with others. And that's when we start coming together. We feel more empowered because we're around people who are reflecting that love at us. and that just grows, and with that empowerment brings so much clarity on the self, I feel like, and what the self can do. Maybe someone else is pointing out something about you that you might not be aware of, like, you're really good at this, or you're really good at that, you know, like, you have this amazing way of bringing down, like, this higher awareness and understanding that's still really grounded and helps people to understand more. Like, and what can you do with that? Can you, you know, what can you do? Because you don't have to go to school to be successful.
Right.
It's really just allowing yourself to clear out all those old ideas, all those old narratives of what can be done with certain gifts, and really just allowing yourself to be divinely led there. I feel like it's not so much as knowing the how we're going to get there, or it's more of the why. Like, does it excite us?
Right.
You know?
I agree. And I think that comes back to leaving space, like we talked about earlier, that sometimes in order to become a new person, we need space to recognize the difference between who we were and who we're becoming, or who we want to be and who we don't want to be. And that only comes with creating space, because if the two are so intermingled, you can't tell the difference. First you got to create space, and then you can make the choice, all right, which direction do I want to go? And, you know, I think it's a big process of unlearning. I think that's really something that I've been focusing on lately, is unlearning a lot of thoughts that I've accepted as my own, which were really inputs from other people that I chose to accept,
Yes.
but aren't actually really beneficial for me, or what I believe in, or what I believe to be true, what's for the betterment of myself and the world around me. So a lot of the past really couple of weeks have been just diving into my own brain and what I call, you know, I think of my mind as a garden. Getting a lot of those weeds and those vines that are strangulating a lot of the positive seeds and positive seedlings, ripping those out, unlearning by getting rid of those weeds, so now there's space to plant new seeds that can grow, that are beneficial. And that's been a really big piece of my journey the past couple of weeks, has just been finding those seeds of recognize that I've been focusing on things that I don't want rather than focusing on what I do want.
Yeah.
And whatever the answer to every prayer is yes. So if I'm focusing on what I don't want, that's giving energy to that.
Oh yeah, and that's gonna make that grow.
Exactly.
Whereas when we can shift the focus onto what we do want, or even just look at the good in maybe what we don't want, like
Right.
try to find some,
And that yin and yang, there's always
find
some of both.
what you can learn from it.
Right.
Like, look at what you can learn and how you can grow from what you're experiencing, rather than being so resistant to having the experience. What we resist persists. You know, so like, if there is a certain experience that we're having, really just open to receive the lesson and knowledge, and just observe rather than judge it, and then, you know, be free of it and move on with our lives. And also ask the universe.
Right.
Tell the universe that we're ready. Write in a journal about it. Writing is so powerful.
Yes, it is.
Write down every single full moon what you wish to release, and every new moon what your intentions are of bringing in. And really just, once you write down what you wish to release, I've done this before, literally that situation within a week was pretty much dissolving, like, and that's when I ended up being here, and I had the universe that already had a situation to support me. It's really just asking for what we want, believing we're worthy of it, and being open to receive, and letting go of the unhealthy attachments that are not fully making us feel fulfilled.
100% agree. Yeah, and I've really found, like you said, that sometimes just getting it out of our head makes the world of a difference, whether that's journaling, or for me, exercise is a big one. Movement is a big one, that if I feel, you know, stressed, anxious, angry, whatever, getting into my body makes a big difference, or getting it out of my head. So sometimes just, you know, diving into it mentally, thinking about it, usually isn't the best option for me.
Yeah.
It's either writing it down or moving. And I find
Yeah.
that's really a powerful way to release some of that emotion in there. And another focus I've really been recognizing lately is our attachment to the brain. And the brain is the supreme ruler, the dictator of everything in our body, but not recognizing the importance of the heart and the gut. And these are three epicenters, not one epicenter, but three epicenters that give us messages. So I've been really trying to find balance, or I am finding balance within those three. You know, not often do we get a message from the gut and we ignore it and we're happy with the result.
Yeah.
Usually the gut is telling us
Yeah.
something right.
Yeah, I feel like the gut is honestly the first brain, and it's like because of what we have been conditioned to consume, it honestly has played a huge part on the consciousness that we have mentally.
Right.
And it really does come down, like they've said, the gut is the first brain, and what you put in there does affect how you think and feel.
Right.
And food has played a huge part in my like spiritual awakening. Like that's where it honestly kind of all began, was like with the food and just with my consumption mainly. And I feel like we're all, you know, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. We're all here to remember and rekindle that connection with our spirit, and this life is like a challenge and a maze to kind of put all the pieces together and remember the big picture of why we're here.
Start with the why.
Why we're here.
Why we're here.
Yeah, why we're here is to restore, I know, restore our sovereignty in the being that we are, and in all the relationships we experience, and in our relationship to the earth, in our relationship to our higher self, higher power, you know, God, the universe as a whole, just everything, seeing it all as sovereign, seeing it all as sacred, seeing it all as love, and just restoring the love, restoring the sovereignty, bringing that back, like, and just transparency, purification, like we're here to purify, we're here to cleanse, like physically, mentally, restore this earth, like, and just make it the best that we can by making ourselves, we don't really have to make ourselves the best that we can, we already are, we just have to dissolve the layers that are telling us that we're not, and go through that purification process so that we can then purify everything around us.
Definitely.
You know.
Well, I think it comes back to the fact that, you know, we are responsible for everything in the world around us. And, you know, just everything we're talking about is very much connected because
it's cool.
everything is one.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, by us taking personal responsibility for when we wake up in the morning, you know, creating space before diving into the world, that helps us listen to our gut, listen to our intuition, listen to our heart and our brain in balance. Whereas if we dive right in, we focus on just the brain. So I really believe that, and like you said with food, we talk about probiotics, we talk about enzymes, things that help the digestive system are actually helping us think better. They're actually helping us act better, be more loving, be more present.
Yeah.
And it's hard for, you know, people that are used to a certain way of life to think, all right, how is me eating gonna make me smarter? How is me eating gonna make me more of a loving partner?
It's emotional intelligence
It is.
in a sense, and it's the fact that when we overconsume, it literally numbs us from our emotions.
Right.
When we can't feel our own emotions, how can we really hold space for someone else?
Right.
You know, and when we're being more aware, we're letting our body digest, we're doing what we have to, we're creating that clarity within, like we can understand our own emotions more, we can understand others better, and just have being more of that like oneness kind of frequency.
Definitely.
And that's the frequency that we are here to, you know, remember and restore, that like we are all one, we are one with this earth, we all have, you know, a very similar purpose and mission in a sense, but we all play a different part.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, coming back to the puzzle, I love puzzle analogies. So
Yeah,
if the universe is a puzzle, you know, you're a puzzle piece, I'm a puzzle piece, our friends are puzzle pieces, every single person is a piece of the puzzle. We just need to find where we fit in that puzzle.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously
Trial
you
and
and I
error.
have very similar ambitions and similar, you know, outlooks on life. So, you know, we're creating, and like with the Ice and Iron, that community is creating, you know, a larger piece of the overall puzzle. Instead of having all these little fragmented pieces, we're bringing a lot of pieces together. So now maybe we've got a little tiny corner of the overall puzzle. We don't have the big mass of the puzzle yet, but we're building the pieces together. And I think that it is through, like you said earlier, collaboration. That's really, I think, one of the biggest pieces of what my intentions are just in general, is just collaborating with people, because it's together that we grow stronger. It's together that we fit together, because the idea of like 1 + 1 = 2, but when it comes to human beings, we're beyond just that logical. Like, human beings together, 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
Like, we're creating more than just double.
Oh yeah, our energy bodies are so much bigger than we even realize, and
Right.
it's really the more energy that we have, like the higher the frequency, and that's where it also comes in with the food again. There's certain food that literally puts you at a lower frequency, and that's where it's at. It's like when you eat high vibrational foods, you vibrate higher, you are able to embody like more light, because you're eating foods that are filled with more light, especially if you're eating a lot of vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. And
Organic
it's just
foods
finding a balance,
Right.
finding a balance overall, but going more towards like the foods that are filled with more, biophotons and light, and just embodying the light and the consciousness through that. And then, coming together is going to continue to help us expand and heal the world, because together we are more powerful. And there's powers in numbers.
Definitely.
And when we're together, we're reflecting and mirroring like each other's energy, and we're able to learn and grow a lot. And especially if you're around people who are about growth and who want to grow, and we're just having these like transparent conversations where we're talking about these certain things. Maybe this person triggered us. What's the reason for that? Just being honest, being open, and really allowing ourselves to like express ourselves and not repress how we feel about how we're feeling about our own self, but about how someone else, even though no one can make you feel any type of way, you're choosing to react that way. Telling them how you feel. Just being open how you feel. Like, not sitting there upset and like holding it in and repressing it. Like, openly speaking about it, or writing it
Which
down,
isn't always easy.
or whatever kind of way that you want to express it and transmute that emotion, because you don't have to embody that. You don't have to feel anger. You don't have to feel sadness for that long. Like, we can choose to transmute that, and the sooner that we are just able to observe and allow that emotion to float away without judging it or honing in on it, trying to figure it out, give it too much power, then we can get better at it over time. And then sooner, I think we won't really have to, even worry about those really affecting us that much. Like, it comes to a point where you're just an energy alchemist, and you are able to master really your emotions and how you feel, because you're just so in tune and really have a really in-depth understanding of how to alchemize and transmute the things that you feel.
Definitely. I forget who said it, but I remember hearing somewhere that a grudge is a fool's poison, because they think that they're putting negativity on the other person, but they're the ones that's drinking that poison.
Feeling it.
If you're holding a grudge against someone, the person may not even know that you're holding a grudge against them, but you're brewing with this anger, this hatred, this grudge, and you think that you're doing it to harm them, to get back at them for whatever they did to harm you, but realistically, you're the one drinking that poison. I thought that was an interesting way to put it, the fool's poison. So, like you said, really allowing ourselves to express that, and I feel that's, traditionally in past relationships, that was always tough in my circumstance, that, I didn't want to hurt the person's feelings.
Yeah.
But in that sense, it made things worse because I was
creates a
holding it.
separation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when we hold back and we can't express ourselves to who we're with, it's just creating separation, and then from the separation comes the frustration, and that's when we're angry at ourselves or that person, because there's just so much repressed energy, and the repression creates the depression, and the depression is just another way of the anger. It's just a thought form that is lower vibrational. Like, it's not that it's bad or whatever. It's just an emotion that we
it's
feel.
all connected, and I think that's something too that I think that a good example that we can use for people to recognize how emotions and energy really affects everything is that if you've ever been broken up with, cheated on, or had some event happen that you felt out of control and didn't like, your diet goes away. Usually you lose your appetite, you have trouble sleeping, you have all these other feelings going through you that is more than just mental. It's your whole body is all connected. So by you, let's say someone cheated on you, you lose your appetite, you lose sleep. It's like everything is connected, and it becomes this crazy connection that makes you made me very aware of how connected everything is.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's like they're one and the same, the emotional and the physical, like, and when, you know, we'll go back to the consumption again, like when we overconsume, we're not allowing ourselves to feel the emotions that we're feeling. We're essentially procrastinating, feeling those emotions and feeling and dealing with what we're feeling. We don't want to deal with it, so we suppress it. Then what's going to happen if you keep doing that? It's going to manifest physically, because the universe is going to say, you really don't want this. You don't want to feel this. You don't deserve to feel this. You deserve to, you know, feel the release of those emotions. So there's going to be something that happens physically. For me, it was like car accidents that I was in. I had a concussion once. Just little physical things, big physical things that have happened that have woke me up and brought me back down, made me ground into myself again and be like, okay, what am I doing right now? What am I doing that is making this manifest?
Right.
How am I thinking? How am I being? How am I feeling? Like, and then needing to actually feel those emotions and no longer escape them anymore, which was this past February when I stopped drinking. Like, that was when I started to feel everything and started to question death and would be in the bathtub freaking out about dying, thinking, what if, you know, all the things, because I had learned about certain things that I had done, that I had consumed that are not good for my health, my whole life, like, you know, food and different types of drugs and stuff, and thought, what if this happens to me, like going into hypochondriac mode, what if I get this, what if I get that, you know, being on Google freaking out, then just thinking about death, where am I gonna go after this, like, what if I go to a place I don't like, but I was in a place I didn't like in my own mind, so that's why I was scared.
Projecting that elsewhere.
Yeah, and that was a lot. And then, you know, slowly over time, like through working with plant medicines, I learned what I believe is to be true, that when we die, we don't actually die. I mean, our physical body gets left behind, but our energy unites with the source energy of God, and we then there in that space, in the womb, which is God, the darkness, you know, where eternal light can be created, because God was first a first dimensional being, which is literally nothingness, and then it expanded from there. It said, I want to be, you know, I am light, I am. What it believed it was, what it chose to be was what it created. And different, you know, facets of God, of the One, have chosen to be different things. Maybe they weren't aware of their energy, and that's why certain things have been created, because we are all facets of the One, and how we choose to be affects this reality. But yeah, I think it's just a union with the source where we can integrate all the experiences that we've had, everything that we've learned, and with the awareness we've gained, form ourselves into a new being on another plane of consciousness, another plane of existence, where we can serve those reflections of ourselves and just learn and continue to grow and expand, because that's what the universe wants to do, is continually grow and expand, and it's literally infinite. It goes on forever, and it will continually expand. And that's kind of how we are as well. And then who knows, there could be a certain point where your energy body grows to a certain point that you could become a planet. You could become a being that, you know, literally creates space for other beings to be as well. Like, that just is a home, is a beautiful, abundant planet like Earth, you know, that grows things and gives us the space to, you know, learn and reflect with it. And, you know, nature is the truth. Like, when we get out in nature, we really get more of a deeper understanding of our own true nature.
Definitely. Well, I think it's a reflection of us, and it shows, like, when I'm looking out here right now, as you said, there's an abundance of life. There's also an abundance of death.
Yeah.
Because we're in the fall here, so there's a lot of trees that appear to be dead. the leaves are gone, but that is also just the natural cycle of life that, I learned to appreciate, that not looking at death as a bad thing. It's just part of life. And in order for life to happen, there needs to be death. It's that yin and yang, that you need both sides of the coin for things to move forward. And I think that for me, a big change in my life was when I stopped being afraid of dying. I accepted death, and that was actually, for me, kind of in a weird way, so I joined the Air Force ROTC program into college, my first semester. And I remember I committed to that end of my senior year of high school. And I remember I'd have these dreams where I was, in the Air Force, and I was killed in battle. I had all these dreams of me being killed in battle, and at some point I was like, well, that's going to be my destiny. I'm going to die at like 23 years old, and that's going to be my destiny. And I just kind of was like, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then the day, I remember it was the craziest thing ever. The day that I decided the Air Force wasn't for me, and I dropped out of the ROTC program, that night I had a dream of me as an old man. And it was this crazy experience. I remember waking up crying. I was like, holy shit, I'm not going to die when I'm like 23 years old. But that experience of seeing myself die, first freaked me out, but then also led me to accept, like, I'm going to die at some point. So it doesn't really matter when it is in reality.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a weird way of coming to that conclusion, but at 18, 19 years old, I kind of accepted that, and that has definitely, allowed me to live with less fear, because I know, it's inevitable. We're all going to die someday, so, why not live this life how we want to?
Yeah.
And of course, between, 18 to 27 now, the past 9 years, there's been some things that, I did back then that I'm glad I did, because I learned from.
Yeah.
But we're definitely a little reckless because of that mentality. So it kind of had that juvenile approach to, like, I'm going to be reckless, I'm going to die one day anyways, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah, I did that too.
I think we all did. It's
Yeah.
part of youth. But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, just accepting everything exactly how it is and being present for this moment. Because we can think in the future, again, come back to, oh, what if this happens? I don't want this to happen. We can think in the past, oh, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't do this. I wish I did this differently. Or we can just be here now.
Yeah.
And that's really all that we have, all we will ever have. Because even 10 minutes ago, it was gone forever. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And the next 10 minutes are only going to be another present moment. So I think at the end of the day, all we have is this present moment. So the better we can utilize that, the better our lives will be.
The more present we are, the more of the present that we can see and be, right? The more that we can really learn, like through truly being here now and not thinking about the past or the future. Like, we're being a slave to the past if we're thinking about the past, but we're really consciously creating our, future reality by being here now.
Right. And our presence is a present.
Yes, it always is. It always is. And no matter how we show up, like, as long as we're showing up fully, even if we're not showing up fully, like, if we're still repressing, we're still showing up. Like, we're still showing up, and however we gotta go about letting ourselves, release is how we do that. And everyone does that differently. But definitely important to not repress anything and just let it out and shout if you need to. Be here now,
Absolutely. Well, Amanda, this has been a great conversation. Where can people find you to connect with you and follow along with what you're doing?
So I am currently working on a website where I'm going to be offering a little bit of like health and detox coaching.
Cool.
For people who want to transition to just like a healthier diet, heal their digestive system. I also want to offer with the, with the health coaching and stuff, a little bit of like lifestyle as well, and just kind of like talk about the things that have helped me and maybe help to share that with others to help guide them as well. And then also sharing the retreats on the website that I've been putting together. We're doing one that's going to be co-ed, and it's next month in New Hampshire, so that should be fun. And I've done one woman retreat where we basically all gathered and we used the mushrooms and we used cacao, and we just had a few ceremonies and just heal those sister wounds, because like for the females it can be hard for us to connect with one another because of just certain ways of growing up and certain ideas about how friendship should be like. But restoring those intimacies in those sisterhood bonds and really anchoring into that has felt amazing, and I can't wait to meet more sisters as I go along my path. But yeah, Instagram's probably the best place for now until my little website's done, and that's Ray of Light, R3AY of Light. And yeah, my last name's Ray, so I just did the E as a 3 instead of an E.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amanda, thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And for anyone that didn't catch that, I'm going to put the links to her Instagram and website in the description box here, so check that out. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was a great talk.